Regular meeting of November 9th, order. Start by standing and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call, please.
Council President Michael Platt. Present. Councilperson Suzanne Sauder. Present. Councilperson Joseph Gay.
Here.
Councilperson Russell Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Valerie Leary.
Present.
William J. Barthel, City Administrator. Mayor Michael J. Carranza. Daniel Arlasco, Esquire, Chief City Solicitor. Richard McCabe, Chief of Police. Jeff Bergstrom, City Building Inspector. Janet Carlin, City Treasurer.
Here. Review the minutes for October 11th, 2022, regular meeting. Motion to approve them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Staff report. Yeah. Treasurer's report.
Good evening. This is the October 31st unaudited treasurer's report. Total unrestricted funds, $7,606,926.42. Total restricted funds, $4,463,363.91. Total cash in the accounts, $12,070,290.33.
Any questions for the treasurer? Motion to approve the report.
We are right on schedule. As I mentioned in the previous month, we were a little slow in getting some of our tax monies in, but someone had forgotten to pay their taxes, and it was a large company, and we got $6,000 extra. So.
Okay. On a penalty?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you good? Any more questions? Motion to approve the treasurer report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Report from the city administrator and the staff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Platt. I have 3 items for council. An update on the Washington Street Railroad project, which I alerted the council last month. So I've been told now that that project is going to begin on the 28th of November at 5 o'clock and will run for 2 days through November 30th and should be completed by 5 o'clock on the 30th. That will be a full closure. We have put that on the website and posted it. So again, I mentioned this last week or last month that they were going to be doing some work there. At that time, I didn't have the dates.
This is obviously not the railroad.
It's Washington Street. It's not the.
Oh, okay.
It's not Delaware and 8. It's not that part.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Also, an update on the Delaware Street and 6th Street traffic light. I did hear from Peter Haig from DelDOT, and he indicated that they should be ready to come to council in January. They should have their study completed by through the end of December, and hopefully we'll be coming to council with an update and a recommendation at that point. And then the last item I have is this. What I'd like to do is address council concerning yard waste. And I'd like to, as council knows, we do yard waste every Wednesday, and we do 2 trucks pretty much throughout the town. So my thought is from January 15th, or I should say January 16th, which is a Monday, through March 1st, which is a Wednesday, that we continue to do yard waste on the basis of people calling in and requesting it. And there wouldn't be another charge for it. It wouldn't be like special pickup. It would be that we would not be sending 2 trucks through town. And the idea of that we typically do through those months. So in January of 2021, we did 6.93 tons of yard waste. In February, we did 1.52 tons. In March, we did 23.1, April, 39.58, 69 more yard waste as the summer goes. And so what I will be doing is we'll be getting the word out beginning next week and letting people know that this will be the process. My thought about starting in the middle of January is that will get us through the Christmas season. Most people will have their trees out by the middle of the month. And again, of course, if they don't and they need us to come by, we certainly will continue to do that. So.
Only on a certain day that they call, say.
We'll still do the
Wednesday,
same
we're
calls.
gonna do it every day.
We'd like to have people call by Monday of that week if possible, and then we will go ahead and pick up on Wednesday. Still pick
Like
up
we
on
normally
Wednesday.
do.
Right. And that's the intention. So it's basically 6 weeks.
Save some money, save some fuel.
I think so, for sure. Any questions for me on anything? If not, Chief?
That one question. 400 Delaware Street is still listed as a vacant property. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
You.
Good. Reports and everybody has access to that. A couple of highlights from this past month. On the 13th, our officers responded out there at Airport Plaza to deal with a man in crisis armed with a knife. Our officers found him in crisis, armed, and he was under some kind of hallucinogenic that was making him say some things that were a little bit alarming. They managed to assault towards an officer, so there were no crimes, but we managed to get that resolved pretty quickly. I know that was a pretty big response, so I don't think we get any calls over the type of response we had. That's what we were dealing with. On the 18th, we had a two-car crash at the intersection of 273 and 141. Significant injuries. At first, we thought one was a fatal, so we asked for the help for the county traffic services unit. We're grateful for the release from the county police. We continue to work on the case that start questioning folks putting checks in the mail. In the mailbox in front of the post office, there was a key that had been floating around that apparently now the post office has changed to the locks. The latest fraud was actually hand delivered to the post office. So we're going to handle what we handle internally. We've got to investigate that and make an arrest. But we're putting a little pressure on the bed now since there's obviously an issue. Just wanted to make council aware of that.
the same maintenance that you do now, you know, the mulch, that type of stuff, cutting the grass. Anything else?
Nope.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Mayor, anything?
Moving a little gingerly, I took out the ice hockey gear for the first time in a few years, and I'm feeling every bit of it today. Sorry. So good evening, everybody. Want to also join council today in recognizing P.D. Stannis. He was a great contributor to our community. Families very active in our community, and we will certainly miss him. He passed away on October 26th. I got a phone call, even though the business is outside the city limits, the management at PrintPack has decided to close and sell the facility. There are 80 employees there. They have opportunities that they're being given in many of their other locations. The nearest one being, I think, around the Virginia Beach area. So if people are going to take advantage of moving outside of the community, it's too bad to lose any employer. But their business model, they found for what they were producing, their supply chain issues and customer issues resulted in them making the decision to close that facility. And actually, the facility will be up for sale. The also want to thank all those involved with our branding efforts. The water tower looks terrific, as do the new signs entering the community. They are really, really a nice upgrade from what we've had in the past. They look really great. Tonight, you've got a couple of commission appointments that I've put forward. Dr. Joe Viola, who would like to continue on the Board of Health, and Kristen Zumar and Matthew Lovely, who would like to continue on the Planning Commission. I want to also say congratulations. Yesterday was Election Day to those that won, and also acknowledge everyone that decides to throw their hand up and say, I'm willing to serve, even though they didn't come out on the winning end. We certainly appreciate having choices. Thanksgiving is just a couple weeks away, and I would encourage everybody, and I've talked about this in my news column that the weekly produces. It's a great opportunity to pick a charity of your choice. There will be many people who won't be able to afford a turkey and all the trimmings, and so if you can find it in your own budget to sacrifice a little bit more for those who will be looking for food that day, I'm sure they would be grateful. Finally, there is a proclamation, and if you want me to read that now, at the end of the month will be Small Business Saturday on the 26th. And while this has a lot of national statistics, let me share some Delaware statistics. There are 57,000 licensed businesses in the state of Delaware. 56,000 approximately, by definition, are small. There are several different definitions of small business, but typically it's most people draw a line at about 150 to 50, somewhere in that neighborhood constitutes small. Of the 57,000 businesses in the state, 56,000 are small. The population of workforce in the state is just under 500,000. About half of that 500,000 work for the 1,000 biggest businesses, and the other 250,000 people work for those 56,000 small businesses. They truly are a blessing. And those large businesses were probably a small business before they got to be a big business. So we're really grateful to all of those men and women who take the time to put their own heart and soul into running something. If you are a CEO of a small business, you are truly the chief everything officer. So with that, we have a proclamation recognizing Small Business Saturday on November 26th. Whereas the government of the city of Newcastle, Delaware celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to, quote, shop small, independently owned retailers. 66% report that day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or takeout from a small restaurant, bar, cafe, or small business on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And whereas the city of Newcastle, Delaware supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I'm Michael J. Coron, the mayor of the city of Newcastle, Delaware, who hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday, and urge residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
Mayor, just a quick question. Print pack, I know it's not within the city limit, but does MSC supply them power?
That's a very good question. That's a great question because the electric and the water service maps actually do not correspond with our city boundaries. And I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, that could be a huge revenue cut. I mean, they run pretty heavy equipment down there.
We do know that we have a small number of commercial users, especially on the electric side. We have one ratepayer in the industrial park that accounts for about 14% of our overall purchase of electric and use of electric. And when you look at the commercial development parks, industrial parks, combined, they're about 60% of our use. Residential is only about 40%. Businesses are probably, they're subsidizing. They help us buy at greater, buy in bulk. We'll buy more, so we get a lower rate when we buy it in bulk. And so they actually are helpful. I'll check on that. I don't know, because the electric lines are one thing and the water lines are yet another map. They all don't.
Just curious.
All correspond with the city boundaries, so that's a good question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
You know if they have any fire for the property or facility?
They did not say that. They were actually, I'm going to assume, Russ, that they don't, because they called me on Thursday or Friday of last week, and I asked them if they had a potential buyer, and they said no, they hadn't even gone and had the assessed value of the property calculated quite yet. So my guess is that's probably not something that's done quite yet. But I will say this: there is, when you look at the State Economic Development Office, when you communicate with them, they will tell you that probably 80% of the businesses in Delaware that are looking to expand and businesses that are looking to locate here are all in manufacturing. Manufacturing is incredibly important. I know that there's a thought around, Delawareans who've been here their whole life that manufacturing in Delaware is dead because General Motors and Chrysler. Nothing could be further from the truth. The manufacturing sector in this state is alive and thriving. It may not be 1,000 employees here or 2,000 employees here, but there's a lot of places where it's 25 here and 50 here and another 200 over there. And that is the preponderance of growth within the state, up and down the state, all three counties.
Questions for Mayor? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As of last month, everyone knows that I said that I was going to file a complaint with the Attorney General's office against Councilman Smith, Councilman Day, and Councilperson Leary. I did do that. I got a letter back from the Attorney General's office asking me to FOIA the 3 council persons on two subjects, the Board of Adjustment and the Tourism Director, which I did. I have to say I was slightly disappointed in the response from the council people because I don't think they were very honest. Some council people actually denied even having any information when other council people provided the information they said they didn't have. So at this point right now, we just got a letter on Friday from the Department of Justice for the city to respond to this. So my understanding is that these council people have the right to respond to the Department of Justice. And then at that point, it goes forward. I'm even thinking about asking Mr. Barthel, I don't know if it's possible or not, about having our IT guy come in and look through deleted emails, because in my opinion, it may be circumstantial, which is still evidence in the court of law, that there's been collusion going on. And I just think it's, like I said, I have the emails. If you want to see them, they're more than welcome to give them to you. But that's where we stand right now. So once I hear something back from the Department of Justice, I'll keep everybody abreast. Thank you.
May the accused,
No,
say
no,
more?
no. You had your chance. You had your chance. That was a fact. No, I didn't. No, you had your chance. I'm not going to litigate it here, Mr.
Just
Smith.
so
Moving
just
forward.
so you understand,
Mr. Smith, Robert
the
rules.
issue is-
Mr. Smith, Robert rules.
the collusion, no more than 2 of us can meet at any one time. The accusation is that 3 of us were meeting together before meetings in order to decide how people were going to vote. That is untrue, and we will fight that,
And
no
fight.
matter how many times he bangs that gavel.
Mr. Smith, I'd be happy to put your emails out personally, because there's an email from Ms. Day to Ms. Leary to you about the Board of Adjustment. Okay, and not only does it go through the 3 council people,
Me and Russ voted for it.
all right, we'll open the floor up to public comments now.
I got to go. Let me hurry up. God almighty. What's my address? Anybody know? No, it doesn't last go.
Do.
What is it?
Well, I don't know the specific.
635 Clark Street, Dobbinsville.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I take a long time to write. I got one thing to say. Mr. Platt,
Yes, sir.
the bullshit you're trying to pull with this council, that none of them meant any harm with anything they did. I think I can prove some more serious things around here that deserve the attention of the Department of the Justice.
See me after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. See me after the meeting.
Why don't you haven't listened to me for the last 2 years. Let me sink this, let me turn this place upside down and shake every cockroach in and out, because I got the proof to do it. I got the proof to do it. Leave these guys alone. You're not on the same agenda they are. You're working with the contractors. How you like me now? Thank you, I'm leaving.
Have a nice night.
Hey, it's the truth, it's all the truth. Get the people here, let's fix the real problem. Let's put some of them that ain't around no more in jail where they belong. We don't need more bike trails. We need roadways, not bike trails. Games, man. This is our town. This is where we live at. Done with your bike trail.
Mr. Stagg.
Don't let them more fun.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Stagno, Mr. Mayor, Mr. President, members of council. In Newcastle, also the president of Bike Delaware, which is a statewide advocacy group that promotes and works to develop safe riding and pedestrian access points that connect communities. And I'm, as the president, I'm vested with the authority to speak on behalf of our board, and our board has unanimously supported the school lane project that you're about to hear from DelDOT and from the folks from WRA. I want to give you some context. When the collective we developed the 273 trail, the Freshtown Trail that rides along 273 now, this particular connector part was supposed to be part of it. About a decade or so ago, it was not. It got bumped for funding reasons or other. It's in front of you now, and the board of directors at Bike Delaware is a strong supporter of the project. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lizzie Zubaka. Suzanne Swift asked me to come and speak to the updates on the playground project. She wasn't able to make it tonight, so I have 4 quick updates for everyone. The first is about the playground equipment bidding process. It looks like DENRAC confirmed that the city can join the state purchasing alliance for the playground project. So hopefully that can give us a little bit of better prices for the playground equipment, because Compton is one of the approved vendors for that purchasing pool. The second update is about the DENRAC grant that we applied for. We actually applied for 50,000. DENRAC Park Council recommended a little bit over that, 60,000. So that's excellent news. My understanding is that it's going through the final processes at DENRAC. So the secretary is reviewing it and signing off on that proposal later this week. The third update is just wanted to thank some of the council members for visiting the park in PA. Thank you for your ongoing, support and interest in trying to come up with, a good proposal for the playground projects. We really appreciate, your input in trying to finalize that equipment. And then the fourth update is, I believe there's interest in dedicating the playground to Porky Viola. And I understand that her family has already, approved of that dedication. So thank you again. And to your question earlier, we have done a lot of meetings and communications with the trustees, and we hope to continue, partnering with them and keeping that line of communication open as much as humanly possible. And then just as a side note, I also support the proposed bike project. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm Andrew Kmack, 23 West 3rd Street. I'm going to read, so I'm going to be talking probably fast because I wrote it. Just because I won't be looking up much. I'll read it. 6 swings, 2 slides, the monkey bars, the picnic tables, and now the basketball court. Why do we keep taking away from the children? The immediate answer will always be one of 2 things I've learned. Either diverting blame to the trustees or to say the plan is in place to redo the park. I have an issue with both of these answers. I'm going to start by addressing the plan to redo the park. The Park Planning Commission is amazing, and I appreciate the city council to allow them the opportunity to continue in their work. But the problem is they were not asked to do this. This is something these amazing people choose to do on their own, and I cannot thank them enough. The problem here is they took away 6 swings, 2 slides, and the monkey bars since March of 2020 with no plan to do anything. And if the park planning commission did not come together, the children would have just been left shorted. This is also what happened to the basketball court. One member of the trustees chose to make a call in the middle of the morning on a Friday without consultation of anyone else to cut the rims off. Even the president of the trustees did not know that this was happening. After blowback, they chose to start getting quotes to replace or repair the court, but I give them zero credit. Essentially, their claim is, hey, look, we are making a basketball court better, but it covers up the fact that we are solving a problem that we created. This is a trick used constantly in politics, create a non-existent problem and our support. Why does this matter so much? I am not a basketball player, though I'm pretty sure I could make at least 1 out of 100 shots. My 9-year-old figure skating daughter could care less about basketball, but the community constantly uses the court. There is rarely a sunny day that people are not playing, and one child walks down there and practices quite often in the rain. Basketball court gives a positive, free outlet for high schoolers who are already getting shortchanged. When walking and talking to the William Penn band, as well as the other students who regulate the park, they also like the monkey bars to hang out on. Plus, the monkey bars were my daughter's favorite, so I would be amiss if I did not mention that for her. This will be a side note, but needs to be mentioned as we continue to fail these children. William Penn, the feeder school of Newcastle, has 1 math teacher for the entire school. That teacher also only teaches honors math, so the rest of the students are left with a teacher on Zoom or a 100% online curriculum, forcing them to teach themselves how to do math. Nearly every student I talked to the past month, when asking what they would like most to help improve their lives, responded with teachers that care or even teachers at all. While the city council has no control over the school system failing these children, you do have control over their recreation. I am not limiting this just to Old Newcastle. Moore's Lane basketball courts are in need of repair. The courts by Walmart are in need of repair. The park off Vanders Lane could absolutely use some updating. I'm sure I'm going to hear that one of these parks are not in the map, but I have not had the time to look up or drive through the map area, but they all have Newcastle mailing address, so I went with it. Now, some of the excuses I've heard. There are only 377 children in the city of Newcastle, and we cannot cater to less than 10% of the community. With that being said, I have some bad news for the fire station. You guys better start setting some houses on fire. You may be next on the chopping block. Sounds ridiculous because of the patriotism help children should always be the side we err on.
Sorry.
First, I want to say thank you, Council President Platt, for taking the initiative and taking the stand against what I feel to be followers and people with their own personal agenda. And I know that that's how it's been. So thank you very much. Going along with that, Mr. Chris Castagno never gets involved with anything that does not benefit him personally. I can name 4 projects that he's gotten people to sign off on so he can make some personal money and gains out of it. From Delaware City to here, and now he's involved with a bike trail. I think it should be done, but I don't think he should be a part of it in any way. Playground, awesome idea, but keep in mind, council, when the trustees announced that they're going to try and dump the maintenance of the park on you guys, please factor that in, but do whatever you can to make the playground happen. Miss Janet Carlin, who's our treasurer, I think she's a great asset to the city. I've never said anything negative to her about her personally in public. So if I've ever done anything that you feel I've done, I apologize. But your comments in our biased paper, remember, Mr. Gross, words matter and will continue to be negative and resurface at an unfortunate time. I take as a threat and a personal stab. And of course, you'd find it funny because you've done it many times under Councilwoman Leary, which was inappropriate. Last but not least,
At a special council meeting on Thursday, September 29th, there was a presentation given on, once again, a new approach to the municipal campus. Was the $30,000 that was matching funds, 15,000 from council, 15,000 from MSC, used for that presentation? And this is directed to City Administrator Barthel.
Yes, I'll address it. Yes. Where do you think that information came from? Where do you think the blueprints came from? Where do you think the drawings came from? We had studies done. That's what it was for. We paid for the study. Sorry, there's no evidence of it. There's nothing. There's proof. There's proof we got results.
It was a second grader presentation.
No.
And last month, when I asked where the money was, I didn't make accusations. You took it as that and refused to give me an answer. You could have given me this answer last month when I asked, instead of saying, we are not obligated to answer questions during public comments.
That is correct. We're not.
Correct.
And
So
I
why
just
wasn't that?
question.
All right. Report of all the plans and all the drawings. Spent.
Good evening, everyone. Check it. Tell me.
City government. The cheapest way I could think of to handle the present situation in Dobbinsville, it's the best I could come up with. Rather long dissertation, I just want to get it on record, that's okay. That's 4 parts, I just want to read one section here. That's for proposal to consider. I sent everybody here. Second word, I don't know who you are. Can we get a business card for you, please? Thank you very much. Number one, shut down is necessary. City of Newcastle Code Inspections Department to collect everything relative to the construction process of both hazardous to the public bunkers that have been built on top of 727 Clymer Street and 741 Center Street properties. Collect everything from the beginning to the present time. Assess all the information available to find the reason how a blatantly illegal structure was allowed to be built on top of 727 Clymer Street property. During the investigation, ask what the purchase price of that property was. What the payment was made in cash or exchanged. Then compare that to the purchase prices, financial records on file of the city or the code inspection department. Number three, hire a competent engineering firm to redesign the 727 Clymer Street property to render it legally acceptable and safe. By safe, I mean not potentially harmful to the public life, to human life as it exists at the present time. Number four,
On behalf of taxpaying citizens of the city of Newcastle, sue the individuals and or groups responsible for the situation, recover all money spent, make the situation go right. And those individuals and or groups should write a check if you have it. But, I'm not gonna talk no more about it. I'm done. Last time I'll be up here. Next month I'll be back to ask what you're gonna do after that mooring up. So, see you in court after that. I'll give you one more month, because I'm not your enemy. There's nobody's enemy. She did this to my house. My house is a total loss right now. Total, complete, utter loss. Everything. Thank you.
Anyone else? We're gonna move along to the school bike trail project for presentation. It's going to be presented by Tom Fleece.
It's not just me presenting it, G and Mike from WRA. So this is the proposed bike trail, and thank you all for having us. This is a fun little project. It's about 2,150 feet of bike trail, but it packs a big punch because it's going to connect to the Jack Markell Trail along 273, and then it's going to go to 13 through School Lane. It passes by the William Penn. The bike trail will be 10 feet wide. It's within state right of way. DOT will be funding the design and the construction of the project. And we're looking to build it next summer, the summer of 23. It should take a couple of months to build. We're in the design process right now. And yeah, I mean, that's just a basic introduction and just introduce the project to you. And WR will take it away from here.
Hi, Jeannie Basag. I'm the designer for the School Lane Trail project. As you can see, this is going to be a connection from existing School Lane from US 13 all the way down to the existing shared use path that's along 273 Frenchtown Road. The typical section is shown on the bottom of the sheet, shows a 10-foot wide trail with safety grading on both sides. We're proposing a thicker pavement section than the normal shared use path section due to utilities and maintenance, so we could access it. Looking further up, 13 up this way, on existing 13, we'll have bike and pedestrian signage and markings on the existing school lane to alert drivers of potential head and bike activity. As you drive down School Lane, there will be bollards installed at the entrance of the trailhead that will then, the trail will head southeast towards the connection at Frenchtown Road.
Yep, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time.
So you mentioned that it's going to connect to the Jack Markell Trail, and so on the right side, my right, yeah, over here, there is, keep going. So right out on Frenchtown Road, we're going to be using the side, it's not a sidewalk, it's pathway, I guess.
Yeah,
It goes up to that, okay. And does it just dead end there?
Here it will lead on to School Lane, the existing School Lane.
Yeah, it'll tie into School Lane, a little volume road, and then School Lane will connect to 13. And 13, in the future, we're looking to improve pedestrian sidewalk facilities on that corridor. So it's going to be like an interconnection. So basically, even though it's a small segment within the state right away, it's going to connect to the shared use path along 273, which connects to the Jack Markell Trail, and then that'll go to the Wilmington Riverfront. So all the residential, the residential area here can bike to the riverfront if they wanted to, without going on the road.
Thank you.
It's nice of you to consult with us, but I'm not sure any part of it is within the city of Newcastle.
Oh, it's not? I thought there was a portion of it within the city.
I don't believe so. Wasn't it the
Oh, no?
boundary now?
Okay.
I mean, we incorporate the gas station and the Dunkin' Donuts, but we don't go much farther than that. I'm not even sure the church is in our boundary.
Russ, that's the farm. That's Ben's farm.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the residential area here.
That is not in the city. That's, whatever that is up there. That's not in the city.
That's not in the city.
No, I mean, is Penn Farm in the city now?
Yes.
Within city limits.
Trustees are up to the farmer's market.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Platt. Forgive me.
Mr. Mayor?
So I think I can visualize this after looking at the map. So this is, if you're on Frenchtown Road, go past the Baptist Church, the school, the pump house. Basically from that point on a diagonal to School Lane, which comes into the back of Planet Fitness up at the farmer's market. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Will there be an access, like say from 10 Acres South and whatever neighborhood behind there to there, so that you're saying that neighbors in that area can get there?
So they already have two existing access points that are pedestrian or bicycle access. They're not wide enough to be an actual roadway, and they have bollards.
Okay.
So those two connections to the neighborhood already exist.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, great plan.
Yeah, and we'll have ballards so that cars can't go on here, so
Yeah.
just for like, make it safe.
Mr. Smith, I think I see the confusion because the city limit line, according to this map, is kind of like right on that path, like the upper level of the path. So, I can see where that would be.
And yeah, next summer, if everything goes right, you'll see some construction there. It's all off the line except for Ruby Tire here, so it's not gonna impact traffic too much, it's all construction within this existing road.
Any other questions?
Can we ask the public if they'd like anything, or, if they have any questions, or?
We normally keep our public
Oh, okay.
comments to the beginning of this meeting
Okay.
and go from there, so. Thank you.
We will leave the boards. We'll leave on the
If
table.
you want to come back and conduct a workshop, we can schedule something here for you.
Well, I can
Meet the
do
general
that.
public. Normally, like on road projects, things like that, that's where we would do that, but something straightforward.
Yeah, this is relatively small, but you have my contact information. If any questions come up, please feel free to contact me.
Okay, certainly.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Move right along. Resolution. Conversation regarding the creation of the position of tourism coordinator. Has that changed from coordinator, tourism director, to economic development person? Or at the same, one and the same?
Economic development. Position we've been talking about.
What's to be discussed tonight? I personally think it should be tabled because this is an active investigation in the Department of Justice.
So the tourism coordinator, tourism development is but one of many ideas or projects that council, members of council bring to the table, much like the dog park or the playground or bike trails or Delaware Street infrastructure, signage, the potholes in Dobbinsville, bathrooms for visiting ships and the use of, for the use of the public. All of these things are items that we bring to the table and eventually appear on the agenda. And so we go from there. This was originally brought, this particular project was worked on by Russ Smith and I, which we are allowed to do. And the resolution was brought to council at the March meeting, March of this year. 8 months later, we still haven't made a decision on that. We did have in July a presentation, a suggestion, an idea presented by Mr. Barthel that we might want to partner with the Historic Society. I voted no on that. But we're still sitting here. 8 months later, we're sitting here. We've made no movement on that. Sometimes things take a really long time here, and that shouldn't be. I'm not sure with this investigation going on, I'm not really sure, but am I allowed to make a motion to return to the original resolution and start from there?
So people can make motions at meetings when you have a discussion item on the table.
So I would like to make
Can I
a
go with that?
motion that,
Mr. Leary, this would have never got, or probably would have passed had you not tried to hijack the situation. You, Mr. Smith, made an offer to one of your friends to try to give her this job so that unilaterally, without council's approval. That's why it's taking so long. That's why I stopped it back in May, because you clearly went and tried to hire someone. And it was stopped, and then it went to discussion, and then you left out a few facts there.
actually, you're twisting a few
No.
things, but I had the floor, so thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, there was some misunderstanding, which we already addressed, and it was resolved, and there was, no offer was made to anyone, it was withdrawn, and, it was a misunderstanding on how things were to proceed. And we said that before, and again, it was resolved. So I would like to make a motion that we return to the, back to the original resolution, and I'm sorry, I don't have the number, but it was passed in March. 4-1. And so my motion is we return and start from the original resolution that passed in March of 2022.
A comment on the motion, if I may. I don't think it's needed. That resolution is still on the books as the only resolution that has been passed on that matter. So that resolution stands. It doesn't need a motion to go back to it.
Mr. Smith, you are correct.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Lesko?
I don't have those motions in front of me, so it's hard for me to respond directly to that question. But if there's a resolution or a motion that's already been adopted and hasn't been rescinded, then it can, you can proceed. You don't need a new motion to reemphasize a prior motion that's been approved. I think that if I recall correctly, the July 21 meeting involved a motion to request Mr. Barthel to explore contract negotiations with the Newcastle Historic Society for a joint use of this tourism coordinator, but it would be an employee of the Historical Society. He came back with that contract and nothing has happened from that point onward. That doesn't, so I think some clarity would be helpful here as to what direction you want city administration to go in as a council.
okay, so this doesn't need to be a motion.
Well,
I'm just like not sure. I mean, we have a resolution that is on the book. We made a motion in July to allow Mr. Barthel to go to the Historic Society to negotiate some stuff. I did vote against that. So I just wanted, do I make a motion to
something that might be done.
send a motion in July?
Mr. Lesko, if I may, there is a 4-1 vote on record. 4-1 vote on record for Mr. Barthel to continue his negotiations. So that would have to be stopped. And it's pretty obvious. We've got an email saying it's been stopped pretty much. So
This is why
how
I'm
do
saying
you
that
want
it
to
would
go
be,
further? Right.
this is why I'm saying it would be helpful to have direction on where this council wants the city administration to go. Do you want the administration to go toward continue negotiating with the Historic Society? If you do, you can put that to a vote. There was a draft contract presented by Mr. Barthel at a subsequent meeting. No action was taken on that. So city, to my view, city government is somewhat in limbo here as to what direction council wants it to go.
Correct.
Okay, so I need help wording the motion then. So I would like to make a motion that we do not continue negotiations with the Historic Society. And we return to the original objective. Is that?
What,
Can
why
I
don't you
ask
just
what
start with part one? I
Okay,
think that's
so-
probably enough.
Start with part one. I make a motion that we rescind the direction to Mr. Barthel to continue for negotiations with the Historic Society.
Second.
Okay, still up for discussion. No vote yet.
Okay.
On what grounds?
Because I feel, and this is me making the motion, I feel that while the description was made more clear, I don't think the overall direction was where we wanted to go. The original was a one-year contract for a single person to be solely dedicated to the city. And the negotiations that were worked out with the Historic Society were now for a 2-year contract at $20,000 a year. And part of that was that they would be working Mondays and Tuesdays at the Historic Society. And that is just not quite in the direction where we wanted this to go. We wanted it to be solely for the city and not for the Historic Society. And that is my basis.
So you just want to negotiate the terms of the contracts, pretty much the same.
I want to return
The
to
salary.
the idea of the one-year contract. So what was approved in the March 2022 resolution.
To my memory, we never approved the plan that Mr. Bartel and Mr.
That is
Condon worked
correct.
out. We discussed it, and we just kind of tabled it. So we don't need to rescind something we never approved. Is that correct?
Well, I think that the question is, where do you want this city administration to go? There was a prior motion approved to direct the council, the city administrator to negotiate with the Historic Society. He did that, he came back to you, it was tabled. That's the instruction city administration has right now, and there's been no action on that. So if you want to redirect city administration, you can do that via motion here. If you don't, you can vote on the contract with the Historic Society that was presented. So those are kind of your options at this point.
So if we rescind or withdraw the negotiations with the Historical Society, then we go back to trying to hire one position.
You have that resolution already in hand.
And that was already passed with the money allocated and so forth. So if we wanted to give direction tonight, I'm just trying to figure out where we're going with this. If we wanted to give direction tonight, we would say, all right, we don't want to go forward with the negotiations with the Historical Society. Or at least that's what Ms. Lear is proposing. We don't think that's within the spirit of the original March resolution approving the money for this position. And instead of that, we would authorize the city administrator to resume the hiring process. And since so much time has passed, I don't know if that means the job would have to be listed again.
Probably so. I mean, circumstances have changed for those applicants, no doubt. So you likely need to at least revisit with the applicants whether or not they still have interest in the position. If you're going in that direction, but like I say, I think the first step would be to tell the city administration, do you or do you not want it to negotiate with the Historic Society?
So is my motion clear enough for that?
I wrote it down succinctly as the motion is to rescind instructions to negotiate with the Newcastle Historic Society over the tourism director. That's how I interpreted your motion. If that's incorrect, please say something now.
Read it one more time, just to make sure.
That the motion is to rescind any instruction to the city administration to negotiate with the Newcastle Historic Society over a joint contract on a tourism director.
Any more questions? You guys like a roll call vote, please?
Council President Michael Platt,
No.
Councilperson Suzanne Salder,
Yes, I don't think that the negotiations with the Historical Society were in the direction that matched what the original resolution's intent was.
With that being said, why don't we just renegotiate with them to take the intent there?
That's not what my motion was.
Well,
Well, we can amend it.
But you can put forward an amendment. You
So
have to
we're
make it.
gonna- Wait, we
You
already-
already had a motion, a second, you're in the process of voting.
Okay, go ahead. Give her, go ahead.
Councilperson Joseph F. Day,
Yes.
Councilperson Russell Smith,
Yes.
Councilperson Valerie Leary.
Yes.
Cruise, thank you. Okay, then motion passes. Mr. Barthel, you can put it's back on you again, sir. You can repost this job. I would just suggest that you post it on a website, not just in the weekly that, a few people see. Re-interview the people, which would be your job, not Miss Leary's, not Mr. Smith's, not mine, not Miss Sodders, not Mr. Day. And then once you get the resumes, you do the interviews, come back to council and make your recommendation, because that's exactly how the resolution reads.
That was the original resolution, as I recall.
no, what we just.
I'm unclear at this point. I know we just made a motion to give Bill direction that we're not going to the Historical Society anymore. Do we need a motion to actually repost the position, directing the repost?
You already adopted a resolution directing him to interview with candidates and make a recommendation on a hire for the city, a city hire. So that resolution was never rescinded. So that's out there. Now, while that was hanging out there, council directed him to explore a different avenue. He did, and now you just passed a motion rescinding that instruction. So you're back at square one where you were when you first resolution. We know candidates and circumstances will change. So basically, you're back at square one with advertising for the job, having Mr. Barthel conduct interviews, and making a recommendation. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Barthel, so I guess I go with LinkedIn or something like that, or Indeed, and we're on the search and see. We'll see if your recommendation passes next time. Okay, resolution 2022-34, resolution authorizing placement of bicycle rental racks on city property by a third party bicycle rental operation. Motion to put it on the floor to have the presentation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Hi, how you doing, sir?
I am
Before I
doing
read
well.
the resolution, I'd like to just hear what you have to say.
Sure, absolutely. What's the formality here? Do I need to give you my address and all of that?
Well, identify yourself, let us know who you are, a little bit of background, and then what your project's about.
Sure, sounds good. So my name is Kelly Benson. I'm actually a resident of Maryland, so my address is 10 North Main Street, Maryland 1901. I'm the owner of Finn Outdoor Recreation, which you guys, I think, should have received a little bit of a pamphlet about my business. But basically, my backstory is I have been in the outdoor recreation business since 2015. My original business was called Bay Venture Outfitters. And as that has grown and grown and grown, it really has allowed me to see what keeps people from getting outside more often. And a lot of that comes down to accessibility to recreational equipment. So what I have done is basically adapt some of the technologies that you see in micromobility companies and have focused them on outdoor recreation. We offer kayak and bicycle rentals, but our purpose is to get people outside, focus on the journey, not on the commute.
The technology allows us to go into many different places and basically create a network. So when people want to get outside, the equipment is located in the area. So for our kayaking, right along the water, for our bicycles, right at the trailhead or some area that is very conducive to the activity. But it allows people to not have to get the bike on the back of the car or out of the garage. It allows people, if they have an apartment or they don't have storage space, or just the financial feasibility of having all of the different tools to get outside and have fun. So we currently have an operation, past summer been in operation in Cecil County. We have 3 kayaking locations. We have a bicycling location in Chesapeake City. We are negotiating with Delaware City, and we just launched on the Wilmington Riverfront. My goal here is to basically connect the major bike paths through Newcastle County in connection with Cecil County as well. That brings me here to you. So I was first introduced to Newcastle, probably 5 or 6 years ago. One of my family members here was a resident in town, so I spent a bunch of time in your parks. I spent some time on the Markel Trail, and I just think that the opportunity to give your citizens and visitors an extra amenity while they're here is a really good.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure.
Sorry, a few questions.
Yeah, they're 7-speed cruiser bikes. So they're really a multi-purpose. They're good on pavement, but they also will go on to some gravel and uneven pavement as well. But it's an easy, comfortable bike that would be accessible for almost all people.
Is it the same as like the blue bikes you rent in towns and things like that? I mean, or similar? I mean, explain how people would use them, rent them, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So you would download a mobile application on your phone. It's the Fin app. And then basically you scan the equipment, you create an account first, put in a credit card, you scan the equipment and it locks, you use it, it charges you for the time while it's out, and then you lock it back up when you're done.
Is it a Bluetooth or what? A wireless system or Bluetooth? I know in DC, they have these rent bikes you can rent everywhere.
Yes.
In DC, you don't have to return it to point of origin.
So my system, yes, you do have to return it to the point of origin, and it is actually physically locked to that rack. So we do that for a couple of reasons. Again, because we're not focused on the commute, you don't have the need of returning the bike in another location from where you started. And I also don't particularly like it when equipment runs away. So if you keep it locked down, then you're good to go.
So does it, when somebody puts in, so explain how they would get it unlocked.
Sure. So you download the app. It's on Android and Apple. You put that on your phone. You create a quick account. It's just going to verify who you are and verify your phone number. You're going to enter in basically a credit or debit card information. At that point, you just scan the QR code and it unlocks. You ride and you bring it back and you lock it back up and it ends the ride.
Okay, thank you.
How big is the geofenced area generally for a place like this?
So we would focus on the areas that we actually want people to ride. Mind you, all of our equipment is, so we don't have any motorized equipment. So it's all pedal driven. So in a sense, the geofence is really more of a recommended area than it is anything else, because obviously you can pedal outside of it. But we really focus on trails. They're actually the lower risk as comparison to riding on a roadway. So again, we're focused on the recreational side. So your pathway along the waterfront, through Battery Park, and then obviously the Markel Trail is really our focus, and that's where they would be geofenced too.
So people could take the bikes outside the geofence. That's one thing I wasn't clear on looking through the material.
Yes.
So then what's the purpose of the geofence?
So it displays a notification to them to just say, hey, you're outside of this. It also, when you're going to rent, it displays that basically on, it's an overlay on a map. It really helps kind of for navigation. So, hey, I've never been to Newcastle before. Where is a good area to ride? Where is not a great area to ride? It gives people that.
So it's a word about giving people direction.
Yeah, yep, in a sense, yes, absolutely.
And is there any kind of tie-in with if they get a flat tire, they fall. Is there any way for them to connect in with your system to get help?
Sure. So we have a customer service team. So basically, whenever the system's operational, you will be able to get someone on the phone. Now we're addressing kind of system operational errors. So we're not going to come out and get you if you have a flat tire, but we're there to help you basically navigate that process. Basically, we instruct people if it's an emergency situation, they're going to reach out to
911.
Yeah, 911. Yes.
Somebody's really hurt.
Yes, correct.
But so if your equipment fails, you wouldn't come and get them. They
So-
still have to get the bike back to its point of origin?
There are a couple different ways that we can basically discuss how that works. At the end of the day, our specific equipment is a commercial grade equipment. So we've been in operation right now in Chesapeake City and Wilmington, like I said, for over 6 months. And we have not had an operational failure during that time period where someone has called us and said, hey, we're out here in the middle of the trail. How do I get back? We do have a risk management plan in place where our customer service team will guide them with options of how that can work.
You're in Northeast, right?
Correct.
We're calling you and you're in Northeast.
Correct.
So if something happens here and we need you have to come up here from Northeast.
Yeah, so just so that you know, I mean, this business is designed to scale. And so we're already in Wilmington, which is actually further than here from Castle. Here is, I'm a 25-minute run. But yeah, so we've got service people that are out in the service areas, but I mean, right now we're working and negotiating with places in Southern Delaware, Kent Island. So we have the infrastructure to handle everything that we need.
And like in January, you probably pulled bikes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so this year, so right now we have 4 bikes that are still live in Wilmington, and we've got 4 bikes in Chesapeake City. At the peak of the summer, we had 10 bikes in Chesapeake City, and we're prepared to scale up to about 16 bikes up on the riverfront.
What's your scale for bikes here?
I would start you with 4, but I would estimate with basically, your town size, something similar to Chesapeake City, I would say around 8 is what we would have in the middle of the summer.
More questions? Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
So, are the bikes embedded with any kind of chip or anything so that I'll pick on Chief McCabe, he decides to throw it in the back of his car and drive home to Middletown. The bike, can you find out where your bike is?
So the bikes are designed, so the locking mechanism on the bike is actually 2 things. It locks the rear tire so it does not move, and it actually locks the tire to the bike as well. So basically, when the bike is locked up, you really can't rip the tire off, and it won't move anyways. So it becomes really not a great bike for you to ride, to be completely honest with you. The second part is it's actually cabled to that rack. So the only time that you can lock the bike is when you're ending your ride. So at the end of the ride, the bike is locked to the rack. There's no way to end the ride one way or another. We track or use those locations through the GPS in their cell phone. And so really at the end of the day, the odds of a missing bike is very slim. And again, there's a part of that in our budget where it's just a cost of doing business.
Second question relates to what Ms. Leary asked earlier. I used to use the bikes available in DC to ride from my office to Union Station to grab my train back here. Do you envision the time when you might be allowing people to connect and ride to Chesapeake City or ride to some of the other destinations and then find an Uber back or whatever, and then kind of move the bikes around accordingly as they do like in DC and other major cities?
So the technology and software that we had allows that. As of right now, I don't foresee using that. And really the main purpose is the reason why we're not is because it allows that equipment to just come back to home base, and logistically that's a lot easier to deal with at the moment. And the other component of that is we really just haven't had a customer need. So one of the things that we've done, and really is a component, I have a second business. It's a restaurant hospitality business. And so I have a very high level for customer service. It's just something that I've always been in. We really listen to our customers. So that has not been an ask. But as an example, one of the questions we kept getting all summer long is, we want to rent multiple pieces of equipment. And as of right now, we're one of the only operators where you can actually have one user rent multiple bikes. So you don't have to have one cell phone per bike, as a lot of the ride sharing or bike sharing operations do. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Have you looked at other locations other than the wharf?
Typically, so I am familiar with many of the, with most of your waterfront and the Markel Trail. The wharf is objectively in my opinion, one of the more highly trafficked areas. And while this system, we've got 5 locations, the majority, the successes that I have seen over the summer are from places in high traffic. Chesapeake City was our main winner, being right there at the top of the bike trail. I envision the system being a gateway to outdoor recreation as time goes on. So one of the things that we're going to launch in the springtime is a subscription model. So for a flat fee per year or per month, you can have access to any of the equipment. And at that point, what we're really trying to do is get equipment into places that are off the beaten path, someplace that you wouldn't necessarily think of right off the top of your head. And in-app, it would direct people to those locations. We need to hit a critical mass of people to actually get to the point where that makes that objective actually feasible. And so right now, our focus is on the highly trafficked areas. The other thing that I'll go ahead and throw in, just more from a logistical perspective, when we come in, we're providing this amenity pretty much full service. So really, we're exchanging space. We come in with our own insurance. We're going to maintain all of the bicycles. We're going to do the installation. So it's really there's no time commitment to you or any of your town staff. It's totally wrapped up in one package deal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Motion to read resolution 2022-34.
So moved.
Resolution authorizing the placement of bicycle racks on city property by a third-party bicycle rental operation. Whereas the city of Newcastle has been approached by Finn Outdoor Recreation LLC, Finn, requesting that the city enters into a bicycle host agreement, the agreement substantially in the form attached here too. And whereas the agreement will permit Finn to install bicycle racks into the vicinity of the city wharf, where residents and visitors will be able to rent bicycles to tour the city, its parks, the surrounding areas in a geofence area designed by Finn. And whereas the utilities or staff are needed to operate the bicycle rental operation, the true support staff will be available by phone at all times that the service is open. And whereas rentals are handled via smartphone application that will allow the users to pay an unlock fee and variable base fee based on the length of the time rented. And whereas the city will receive compensation equal to $1 each time the bike is unlocked for the bike rack. And whereas the city will be named as additional insurer on Finn's liability insurance policy. And whereas the agreement would be for 1 year prior to either party having the right to terminate within 30 days notice. Whereas city council believes the bicycle rental operation will provide an attractive resource for residents and visitors to the city, as well as a healthy recreational opportunity. Now, therefore, let it be resolved, the city council of the city of Newcastle, that the city administrators authorized to execute the agreement to permit the installation of the Finn bike rack in the vicinity of the city wharf at the end of Delaware Street, subject to requirements Finn secured an appropriate city business license and provide adequate proof of liability insurance. Passed this day, November 9th, November, for the 9th day of November 2022. All in favor?
Did we get to discuss it, or
I thought that's what I mean, we discussed it.
we asked him questions, we questioned the presenter,
Okay.
but I do.
Any questions?
I do have one concern. The Battery Park area, parking in the Battery Park area is already tight. It's on a weekend, on a Saturday, well, even during the weekday, there's hardly a space down there. And we're adding another 4, 8, whatever, 16 cars to that area. So that creates some concerns. I think this is a great idea. I like the idea. It seems very high tech and very useful to our visitors. But the location seems to create more problems for us. And also, the only complaints I've ever heard about the Battery Park Trail is bikes. Creating conflict with pedestrians. So I think that's something we need to think about, both of those things. And should it be put in another place? Should it be put at the Markel Trail, for instance, or down by the boathouse, or somewhere else that's not so? I know that's the high density area, and so that's of course the place you want to go, and that's where the most people are. But the people that are already there are bringing their cars, and you're asking more people to bring more cars, and there's no close parking to that. We have parking lots, but you have to do a bit of walking to get there.
I was just going to say, in terms of parking, the 3rd Street parking lot is not that far away. For somebody who's proposing to get a bike and ride multiple miles, 8 miles into Wilmington, I don't think walking a couple of blocks is going to impede them from doing that.
But but then there's already competition for people who just want to go and walk out on the.
Right, but
so they're going to have to then walk from the 3rd Street parking lot. So it doesn't really solve the problem, because I don't think anybody's going to want to walk from the 3rd Street parking lot. They don't even want to do that to go to the restaurants.
Well, then what was the purpose?
Well, the purpose.
Yeah, the only thing that I had to ask is, I know he had stated that he was starting with 4, but is there a cap? And I mean, and is there space if he wants to go to 8 and then 12? If we're in a contract, does the contract, have terms in it for that?
So, yeah, just a couple things to address a couple of the concerns. The bike racks that we install are in sets of 4. And so you can scale up and down based off of that. None of them are, so we're not pouring concrete or anything along those lines. We have different ways of actually fixing the racks. And so this can be as fluid really as we both agree. And so even to the point where the contract that I provided to you is actually set up with those addendums that actually specify where the racks are located. And I'm very happy to put in those addendums up to 4 bikes or up to 8 bikes. The other part of this is I have a very firm belief that my role in this is to also be a good neighbor to your community. And so, if all of a sudden, hey, we're having an even larger issue with parking in this one area, then that's something that, I want to be a part of the solution there as well. One other thing that I'll say in terms of the bikes being in a high volume area, especially at this moment and stage in business, I'm finding that there's a lot of spontaneousness that happens. So if the people are already there, they see a bike and they say, oh my gosh, this is a really cool thing to do. There will be a time where I do believe that, we'll have a user base that is seeking out destinations. But that's not right now. And we can certainly adjust moving forward.
Could we bake in a trial period with 4 bikes?
So I would prefer to be able to really work with the administration on that if possible.
Mr. Platt, if I may, you want to talk about the?
You can terminate it on 30 days.
It's a
notice.
30 day, you're not
I'm
happy.
happy.
You lost the mark, like we try to do with all of our contracts. So if it really got to a point where it was, it's not something that turns out to be such a great idea, or council decides to rescind it, it's a 30 day.
Stereo.
Yeah.
Did you want him to?
Oh, that was
stereo.
The other thing that I just wanted to say on that is I was the one that, so all of the contracts that I enter into, I do as a 30-day period. And truthfully, I'm doing that because I want you to know that my good neighbor, Finn Outdoor Recreation is a good neighbor to you. There's a hook on me as well. And I designed that specifically for that. I want you to say, this is a great amenity in my community. And this is something that we want to continue to have.
Thank you.
Mr. Platt. Mr. Mayor, we have probably the best expert on multimodal transportation in the state, who's a resident here, sitting in the room. And I'd like to know what James Wilson thinks about this, because he knows more about all this than all of us. James?
Bikes are great, but you have other things to run balance. Or in decision the council wants to.
Thank you. Ms. Leary, anything else?
No, I just, I agree that parking sometimes might be an issue or whatever, but on a really nice day here in Newcastle, there is no parking anyways, because everyone is coming down to go to the park or walk through the town or walk on the path or whatever. So like you said, it's a spontaneous thing. You're down here to walk. It's like, oh, let's grab a bike, so.
But on the other hand, this also may be spontaneous for residents to actually want to try it out and try to pay it. I mean, I overall think it's a great thing for our community's health.
Any more questions? Madam vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. President.
The water in this area is a little difficult. Come over to the chest.
Very good. Resolution, excuse me. Resolution 2022-35, resolution confirming the mayor's reappointment of Dr. Joanne Viola to the Board of Health. Motion to read the resolution.
Second.
Whereas the city Newcastle Code provides the mayor of Newcastle appointed 6 members of the Board of Health subject to confirmation by council for 2 years terms, and whereas there is currently 1 position eligible for appointment on the Board of Health, and whereas the city council proposing to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Dr. Joanne Viola for the next 3-year terms ending October 9th, 2025. Now let it be resolved that the city of Newcastle hereby confirms the appointment of the following person to the Board of Health. Dr. Joanne Viola, term ending October 9th, 2025. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Want me to read the other ones?
You like?
You ready to go to the next one?
Absolutely.
It's a resolution approving the mayor's reappointment to the planning commission of Kristen Zumar. Whereas Newcastle City Code provides that the mayor of the city of Newcastle appoint 9 members to the planning commission subject to confirmation by the city council, each for 3-year terms. And whereas there's currently 1 expired position on planning commission, and whereas city council proposes to confirm the reappointment of Kristen Zumar to the planning commission with that term ending October 24, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council hereby approves the reappointment of the following persons to the planning commission. Kristen Zumar, planning commission, term ending October 24, 2025.
I make the motion that we approve the resolution 2022-36.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to read resolution 2022-37?
Sure. Resolution reappointing Matthew Lovely as the planning commission representative to the historic area commission. Whereas the Newcastle Code provides that the city council shall appoint 1 member of the planning commission to serve in the historic area commission.
whereas the current term of the planning commission representative to the historic area commission is expiring, and whereas city council has nominated Matthew Lovely to serve as the planning commission representative to the historic area commission. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council hereby reappoints planning commission member Matthew Lovely to act as the planning commission's representative on the historic area commission for the term ending on November 12, 2025. Matthew Lovely, planning commission representative to the area commission's term ending November 12, 2025.
Any questions on this appointment?
I make a motion, we consider resolution 2022-37.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2022-38, a resolution to design one vehicle owned by the city as surplus property and authorizing disposal of said surplus property. I have a motion to read the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Whereas the city of Newcastle owns a 2012 Chevy Malibu store, which is no longer has a need. And whereas city council has determined this vehicle represents surplus assets, should be liquidated and disposed of. Now whereas, or now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the city council does approve the sale and disposal of the following vehicle. 2012 Chevy Malibu, VIN number 1G1CAYEUXCF320806. Further, be it further resolved that the city administrator shall have the authority to market and sell this vehicle at public or private sale upon the terms and conditions as the city administrator deems appropriate for sole discretion. Any questions? What vehicle is this? Little police car?
It's actually a detective's car that we've had since 2012, and one correction for which it no longer has a need. We have a need, but this doesn't work. So we've been improved. So we want to get rid of this one and upgrade this service.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This is the last one, resolution 2022-39. Resolution authorizing the execution of interagency project agreement with the Newcastle Conservative District. Motion to read the resolution.
So moved.
Mr. Alaska, you have your stuff in front of you?
I do indeed. I've got it. Whereas City of Newcastle and area residents are experiencing an ongoing problem with inadequate stormwater drainage in the area of 102 Stuyvesant Avenue in Van Dyke Village. And whereas the city has a need for technical, administrative, and material and infrastructure services related to the planning and execution of a conservation project at 102 Stuyvesant Avenue to improve or correct drainage patterns in this area. The project. And whereas the Newcastle Conservation District, NCCD, has experience in these matters and has the infrastructure for delivery of technical, administrative, and infrastructure services related to the planning and execution of conservation projects in Newcastle County. And whereas NCCD can secure personnel experienced in providing these services for the city. And whereas to undertake the project, NCCD proposes an interagency project agreement, the agreement between NCCD and the city, whereby the city provides funding for the project not to exceed $20,000, and NCCD undertakes to complete the project. And whereas Senator Four has committed to providing $20,000 in funding needed to complete the project, and whereas will result in the expenditures related to the resolved by the City Council of the City of Newcastle that the city administrator is authorized and directed to execute an agreement with NCCD to permit NCCD to undertake the correction of water drainage issues at 102 Stuyvesant Avenue and to work with NCCD to complete the project as described above. And be it further resolved that the city hereby commits to the allocation of up to $20,000 in funding to pay for the project.
Would you like to give a little presentation on this or an explanation why this is happening?
The role of the conservation district throughout the country is to solve problems that occur not in public right away, but amongst individual property solve on their own property. Thing is that for the subdivisions is areas have been filled in and down no longer, so that let's do our storm. In fact, we repaired some of them with the help of the conservation district, some of them just privately, but now this one is a tough one. It'll solve the problem for that kind of an issue. It'll be the third project we've addressed this year.
In talking with my neighbors, because obviously I think I have a little bit of history there because I live there. And that is a major flooding area that hasn't been addressed by the city in quite a long time. You say run a pipe somewhere, is it going to go under Kashmir?
No, in the backyard, there'll be some kind of stormwater. It hasn't been, I don't think.
It's got to be directed somewhere.
It's gonna go into a pipe that goes across Kashmir and into the Broad Marsh over toward my office.
Is it there already?
The pipe is already there.
The storm, you're just going to tie into the storm.
We're gonna tie into the existing storm drain. So instead of spilling out onto Stuyvesant, it's gonna go back where it belongs, heading across that Stuyvesant as it wraps around there, but over toward.
Is there going to be any meeting with the neighbors? Because for that to get to that pipe, you're going to probably go through about half a dozen houses or more.
Conservation district, that's what they do.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have just one moment? Just a reminder that we have an open spot on the Board of Adjustment, and it's been, I don't know, a few weeks, it's been open, and we probably should make an appointment at our earliest convenience, which is probably the next meeting, but so.
Ms. Leary, but in your email clearly states that's Mr. Day's appointment.
Maybe Mr. Day's appointment, I don't know.
Well, you said it, so I'm just curious. Why didn't you bring it up? You already sent an email at Joe's appointment. Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.